My son, I have bring you a real woman, not that barren you called your wife.
Mom, this is my wife. Don't say that to her. She is so special to me.
Then let her give you a son.
Can't you see how beautiful this woman is? This is the perfect woman you need. She will give you a son, not that thing you called your wife that showed up at your house with another man's baby in her stomach.
She showed up at my son's house with another man's baby in her stomach. That's what his mother told everyone. That's the lie that almost destroyed everything. Damon Okafor had been married to Nyla for 8 years. 8 years of doctor visits. 8 years of negative tests. 8 years of his mother, Renee, sitting across from Nyla at family dinners, with eyes that said everything her mouth refused to say. Tonight, Renee had stopped being quiet. She walked into their living room with a woman Damon had never seen. Young, tall, smiling, like she'd already won something. Damon, Renee set her purse down like she owned the floor. This ends today. I brought you someone real, someone who can carry your name forward. Nyla didn't move. She sat completely still on the couch, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the carpet. Damon looked at his mother, then at the stranger, then back at his mother. Get her out of my house. Damon? Now, Mama? The drive to the clinic was quiet. Nyla sat in the passenger seat with her window cracked, watching the city blur past. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in years. Crying required energy she no longer had. The fertility specialist, Dr. Anita Foss, pulled up 2 chairs and sat across from them like she was about to deliver a verdict. Everything came back normal, she said. Both of you. Hormones, scans, reproductive organs, all healthy. Nyla laughed. A short, broken sound. So there's nothing wrong with me. Medically? No. Then why? Dr. Foss leaned forward. Sometimes conception is more complicated than test results can explain. There are couples with completely normal profiles who wait years. Medicine doesn't have every answer. Nyla stared at the floor. 8 years of prayers, 8 years of pills, 8 years of people looking at her like she was defective equipment. And the answer was, we don't know. She thanked the doctor, stood, walked out. In the parking lot, she sat in the car alone for 4 minutes before Damon found her. He didn't say anything. He just put his hand over hers and kept it there. That was the thing about Damon. He always found her. But Renee wasn't done. She showed up the next morning while Damon was still in the shower. She walked past Nyla like she was furniture, sat at the kitchen table, and started talking. 8 years, Nyla. 8 years and not one child. What exactly are you waiting for? We're trying, Mama Renee. Trying. Renee's mouth twisted. Trying doesn't give me grandchildren. Trying doesn't carry our family name. God gives children in his own time. Then God has clearly decided something about you. Nyla's jaw tightened. She didn't answer. When Damon came downstairs, Renee switched to him immediately, like Nyla had already left the room. Your father built something. You are building something. But who gets it when you're gone? Who carries it? You cannot leave a legacy to heir. Mama. Damon's voice was low and controlled. We've talked about this. You've avoided it. We're looking at IVF, surrogacy, adoption if we need to. Renee went silent for 1 full second, then adoption. Yes, you want to raise a stranger's child and call that my grandchild? Blood isn't everything. In this family, it is everything. She stood. I won't watch you throw away your father's name. Not for her. Damon walked to the front door and opened it. Then stop coming to my house. Renee walked out without looking back, but the way she carried herself told Nyla something cold and certain. This woman would find another door. They hadn't always lived like this. There was a version of Damon and Nyla that most people never knew about. The version that existed before the money. Before the house with the gate. Before Renee started bringing guests. They had rented a single room on the 3rd floor of a building where the landlord knocked on the door every month like he was running a collection. His name was Mr. Stokes. He was precise, impatient, and completely without sympathy. Tomorrow evening, he told them one Thursday, if I don't have my rent, your things go on the sidewalk. Nyla sold bean cakes from a folding table at the corner of their street. She'd wake up at 5 in the morning, fry until her arms ached, and come home with whatever the day had given her. Sometimes it was enough, sometimes it wasn't. Damon drove deliveries. Long routes, low pay. Most of what he made went back into gas. They sat on their bed that night and counted what they had. It wasn't rent, not even close. They went to see Mr. Okeke, a neighbor everyone said had money to spare. He heard them out. Looked them over. You want me to lend to people with no stable income? We'll pay you back, Damon said. With hope? He shook his head. I don't take hope as collateral. Leave. Outside, people from the building whispered loud enough to hear. He's too proud for his situation. Life will teach him. Damon heard every word. He walked back upstairs, sat at the table, and opened his laptop. That night, he finished a proposal he'd been writing for 3 weeks. A logistics contract. A real one. He submitted it at 11:47 p.m. He didn't tell Nyla. He didn't want to give her hope that might not come. 3 weeks later, the contract was approved. Damon told her in the kitchen. She dropped the spoon she was holding. He picked it up. Then she grabbed him and held on until her breathing slowed. We got it, she kept saying. We actually got it. 6 months after that, they moved. The new house had a gate, a real kitchen, a room Nyla walked into and stood in for a full minute without saying anything. Is this ours? All of it. She turned around slowly. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. Damon watched her and thought, if nothing else ever goes right, this moment was enough. It wasn't enough for everyone. At Nyla's birthday party, the first big one they'd thrown in the new house, Damon's uncles found corners to whisper in. A second wife is not a bad idea, just saying. He has everything now, except what really matters. A home without children is a house, not a family. Renee arrived late. She walked in wearing something too nice for the occasion and immediately found the uncles. They spoke quietly, nodded a lot. When Damon spotted her across the room, he crossed it in 10 steps. You came to my wife's party to do this? Damon, leave. Both of you. Don't come back. He walked back to Nyla, found her laughing with a friend. Didn't tell her what had just happened. Some things she didn't need to carry. That night, after the guests were gone and the house was quiet, Nyla sat on the edge of the bed. What happens to me if something happens to you? Damon looked up from where he was removing his watch. Nothing is going to happen to me. Don't say it like that. Just answer the question. Her voice was measured, careful, like she'd been holding this question for a long time. Your mother has never accepted me. Your uncles tolerate me because of you. If you were gone, Damon, I feel like I'm standing in this house on borrowed ground. He sat beside her. Everything I own is ours. Not mine, ours. He said it slowly, like each word needed its own space. You were there when I had nothing, when there was no contract, no house, no plan. Nobody in my family believed in me. You did. Nobody gets to erase that. Nyla nodded, but her eyes stayed worried. I'm scared about this trip. It's 2 days. I know. I have a bad feeling. He kissed her forehead. When I come back, we book the clinic. We try again. Not for Mama. Not for the uncles. For us. She held on to that promise like it was something she could carry in her pocket. The plane went down on a Tuesday. The news broke at 6:47 p.m. A private aircraft lost contact with air traffic control. No confirmed survivors. Search and rescue ongoing. Nyla's phone rang 6 times in 4 minutes. She answered none of them. She sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet. She stayed there until it got dark. They came for the house on a Thursday. Renee, Damon's sister Tasha, 3 uncles, 2 family elders. They arrived at the gate like a delegation, like they'd rehearsed this, like they'd been waiting for it. Open the gate, Nyla. This house belongs to the family now. Nyla heard it from inside. She heard her name said like a trespasser's name. The housekeeper, Mrs. Pete, found her in the hallway. Madam, they are outside. What do we do? Nyla stood there for a moment. Then she said, Open the gate. She walked out to meet them. You have no place here, Renee said. Her voice was calm. That was somehow worse than shouting. You gave him nothing. You built nothing that lasts. A woman without children has no claim. I sold food on the street so your son could chase his dream. Nyla's voice didn't break. I was there when your family called him a failure. I starved with him. I stood with him. And now you're telling me I built nothing? You lived here, Renee said. Don't confuse that with ownership. We need the car keys, Tasha said. The ATM cards. The phones. Nyla looked at her, then at Renee, then at the uncles standing behind them like muscle. She reached into her pocket, placed the keys on the wall between them. If this is what gives you peace, she stepped back. Keep it. She walked inside. She packed one bag. She left the same way she came in, through the front door, in the clothes she was wearing, with nothing that had ever been given to her by anyone in that family. The market corner on Delver Street smelled like oil and early morning. Nyla set up at 5. Her folding table, her small gas burner, her batter. She fried in silence while the city woke up around her. People stopped, bought, moved on. She didn't talk much. She didn't need to. One morning, a woman stopped and stared at her stomach. Baby coming soon? Yes, Nyla said. God bless you. The woman pressed extra money into her hand. Nyla looked down at the money. She had not told anyone whose baby it was. She had not told anyone anything. She just fried and saved and waited and refused to collapse. Some mornings, she talked to the child inside her, quietly, just to have someone to talk to. You'll never go hungry. I promise. Damon woke up not knowing what month it was. The hospital ceiling was white. A nurse was checking something on a clipboard. When she looked over and saw his eyes open, she stopped moving entirely. Sir, can you hear me? Where am I? His voice came out strange, thin. You're in a hospital. You've been unconscious. How long? She hesitated. 7 months. The room went quiet in a way that felt physical. 7 months. I need to call my wife. He sat up too fast. His vision blurred. Can I use your phone? The number rang twice. Then, the number you are trying to reach has been disconnected. He asked for discharge. The doctor made him wait 1 more day for results. He sat in the bed and stared at the ceiling and felt something wrong pulling at the center of his chest. Not grief, not fear, a question he couldn't name yet. The gate of his own house was answered by a man he'd never seen. Renee and Tasha were in the living room when he walked in. They stared at him like he was a ghost, which he supposed he was. Where is Nyla? Renee composed herself fast, faster than she should have. Damon, sit down. There are things you need to hear. Where is my wife? Tasha looked at her hands. She left. After the crash, she changed. She said she wasn't going to wait for a dead man. She took what she could, and she left with someone else. Damon stood very still. She left. Yes. Nyla. Yes. He was quiet for a long time. Then, the woman who sold bean cakes at 5 in the morning, so I could pay my first business bill. That Nyla left. Grief changes people, Renee said. You changed the security. The old guards left when she left. We had to hire... Stop. He looked at his mother. Really looked at her. At the way she was sitting. At the way Tasha wouldn't look up. At the specific silence in the room. Something isn't right. He walked out. He found Abdul, the old gate guard, through the company's HR files. Abdul came to his office the next morning. He sat across from Damon and placed his hands flat on the table like he was steadying himself. She didn't leave, sir. Damon didn't move. They came the day after the crash. Your mother, your sister, the uncles. They told Madam the house belonged to the family. They took her phones, her cards, her keys. Abdul paused. She only had the clothes she was wearing when she walked out. The office was very quiet. Do you know where she is? Yes, sir. Abdul looked at him. She's in my neighborhood. She sells akara in the morning. A pause. There's something else, sir. Damon waited. She's pregnant. He didn't call ahead. He drove to Delver Street at 6 in the morning, parked half a block away, walked the rest. He saw her before she saw him. She was behind her table, working, her hair pulled back, her stomach full and round. She was talking to a customer, laughing at something the customer said. A real laugh, the kind she used to give him when no one else was watching. He stood there for a moment. She turned around. The laugh stopped. Damon. He crossed the space between them in 6 steps. He put his arms around her, carefully, around the baby. and held on. "I'm so sorry," he said into her hair. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I know everything. I know what they did." She didn't pull back. She didn't push him away. She just stood there in the middle of Delver Street with her eyes closed and her hands gripping his jacket. Finally home. He called Renee. Not to fight, not to explain, to say one thing clearly. "Pack your things and leave my house. Both of you. Today. Obina." "Damon. My name is Damon, and the woman you threw into the street is my wife. I did what any mother would. You threw her out with nothing. While she was pregnant, you lied to my face when I came home." His voice didn't rise. That was the worst part for Renee. When Damon shouted, she knew how to handle it. This she didn't know what to do with. "I'll still send money every month because you're my mother. But I am done. You will not see the inside of my home again." He hung up. 3 weeks later, Renee and Tasha came to the new place. They stood at the door. Tasha's eyes were red. Renee said, "Please, let us apologize properly." Damon stepped aside and let them in. 5 minutes. He gave them 5 minutes. Renee sat across from Nyla. She looked older than Damon remembered, smaller somehow. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice cracked on the second word. "I don't know what I became. I don't recognize it." "Don't blame the devil," Damon said quietly. "Own it." Renee nodded. "You're right." Nyla didn't say anything.